You've been around someone, a coworker, a family member, maybe a stranger in traffic, and after 5 minutes with them, you feel like you just lost a round. Heavy, irritable, off, and the worst part, nothing actually happened to you. Their storm somehow became yours. That's the problem we're solving today, because the Stoics figured something out over 2,000 years ago that most people still haven't caught up with. Other people's chaos is not contagious unless you let it be. And today, I'm going to walk you through 7 practical exercises they used to build what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a place in your mind that no one else can touch. If that sounds like something you need right now, stay with me. Exercise 1. Name what's happening. The moment you feel someone else's negativity starting to pull at you, anger, anxiety, that low-level dread, don't react. Name it first. Not out loud. In your head, just say, "This is their storm, not mine." Marcus Aurelius did this constantly. He'd write in his journal, which became the book we now call Meditations, naming exactly what was unsettling him. Not to complain, to create distance between the event and his response. Here's the thing about naming. It activates a different part of your brain. The moment you label an emotion, you step slightly outside of it. You're not in the wave anymore. You're watching it. Try this today. The next time someone dumps their bad mood into the room, just notice it. Say to yourself, "There's the storm. I see it." That one act alone will change what happens next. Exercise 2. Use the dichotomy of control like a scalpel. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who started life as a slave and ended it as one of the most respected thinkers in Rome, had one core idea. He said, "Some things are up to us. Everything else is not." Simple, almost too simple, until you actually try to apply it. When someone is being difficult, anxious, or just plain toxic, ask yourself one question: is this mine to fix? Usually the answer is no. Their feelings are not your responsibility. Their chaos is not your problem to absorb. You didn't cause it. You can't solve it. What is yours? Your reaction, your posture, your tone, the choice you make in the next 10 seconds. That's it. That's the whole game. Most people waste enormous energy trying to manage what others think and feel. Stoics cut that off at the root. You stop trying to calm their storm. You focus on staying steady in yours. Exercise 3. Build a morning buffer. This one is practical and it works fast. Before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, give yourself 5 minutes of silence in the morning. Just 5. Sit with your own thoughts. Breathe. Ask yourself, what do I want today to feel like? How do I want to show up? Marcus Aurelius started every morning this way. He'd mentally rehearse the difficult people he was likely to encounter, and he was the emperor of Rome, so that list was long, and he'd prepare his response in advance. He wasn't surprised by bad behavior because he'd already expected it. He wrote, "Begin the morning by saying to yourself, 'Today I will meet meddlesome people, ungrateful people, violent people.'" And then he'd remind himself that none of that could take his character from him. When you build this buffer, you stop starting the day reactive. You enter every room with your own internal weather already set, and other people's noise has a much harder time breaking through. Exercise 4. Watch, don't absorb. There's a difference between being present with someone's pain and being swallowed by it. Think about a doctor in an emergency room. They care deeply. They're completely focused on the patient in front of them, but they're not falling apart. They can't. The situation requires clarity, not merging. The Stoics called this sympathia, a deep awareness of and connection to others, without losing your own center. You can acknowledge someone's suffering without making it your own. In practice, this looks like listening fully without preparing your reaction, asking questions instead of absorbing their conclusions, staying curious rather than collapsing into their narrative. You don't build walls, you build windows. You can see clearly what's happening on the other side without stepping through the glass. Exercise 5. The pause before the response. This is where most people lose the battle. Someone says something sharp or unfair or just exhausting, and you feel the pull. Answer, defend, react. The Stoics said that pull is exactly when you need to wait, not forever, just a beat. Viktor Frankl, not a Stoic by name, but deeply Stoic in practice, survived conditions most of us can't imagine. And he wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your freedom. In that space is your power. One breath, that's the whole exercise. When someone hits you with their chaos, you take one deliberate breath before you respond. It sounds small, it changes everything, because in that breath, you remember, I don't have to match their energy. I choose my own. Exercise 6. Do a nightly audit. The Stoics didn't just practice in the moment. They reviewed. Every evening Seneca did this. Marcus Aurelius did this. They'd ask themselves 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What would I do differently? Apply this specifically to emotional contagion. Where today did you absorb someone else's bad mood and carry it around? Where did you stay in your own lane? What was the difference? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about building self-awareness over time. Slowly, you start to see the patterns, the specific triggers, the specific people, the specific situations where your inner citadel gets breached. And once you see the pattern, you can prepare for it. This is a 5-minute exercise, that's it, but done consistently. It's one of the most powerful things you can do. Exercise 7. Treat their negativity as information, not instruction. Here's the reframe that changes the whole picture. When someone is chaotic, negative, or trying to pull you into their drama, that's data. It tells you something about where they are right now. It doesn't tell you anything about where you need to go. The untrained mind treats negativity as a signal to respond in kind. Match anger with anger. Match anxiety with anxiety. The Stoic mind treats it as neutral information. They're struggling. Got it. What do I do next? You stop taking their storms personally. You stop making their bad day your responsibility. You start responding to reality, not to the emotional weather someone else is generating. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The chaos out there is real. People are difficult. Life is loud. But your inner space, that's yours, and no one gets to walk in there without your permission. That's the 7. Name the storm. Use the dichotomy. Build your morning buffer. Watch, don't absorb. Pause before you respond. Do the nightly review. Treat their chaos as data, not direction. These aren't concepts, they're exercises. They get better with repetition. If you've been carrying someone else's weight around without realizing it, start with just one of these today. Pick the one that landed hardest. Try it once. See what happens. And if this hit something real for you, subscribe, because next week we're going straight to one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of Stoicism. Why the Stoics didn't actually want you to suppress your emotions, and what they were really asking you to do instead. I'll see you there. The Stoics never told you to stop feeling. Here's what they actually said. Most people get Stoicism completely wrong. They hear Stoic and they picture a guy sitting in a corner, stone-faced, refusing to react to anything. Someone who swallowed their anger, buried their grief, and called it strength. No emotions, no cracks, just cold, clean control. That's not Stoicism. That's just suppression with a philosophy label slapped on it. And the Stoics knew suppression doesn't work. They knew it 2,000 years before psychology gave it a name, because they watched what happened to people who tried to run from their emotions. And it wasn't peace. It was pressure, the kind that builds quietly until something breaks. Today, I want to show you what they were actually asking for. Because it's harder than suppression, and it works in a way suppression never could. The mistake everyone makes. There's a moment most of us know well. Someone cuts you off in traffic, or your boss sends that email with a tone, or someone you trusted says something that lands like a punch. And the first thing you feel, before thought, before reason, is the hit. The flash of anger, the tightening in your chest, the heat behind your eyes, and somewhere along the way, you were probably told, a Stoic wouldn't feel that. A Stoic would just not react. But here's what Epictetus actually said. He said, the first impression, that initial hit of emotion, is not under your control. It's automatic, it's human. He called it a propathei, a pre-passion, a reflex before the mind engages. You don't choose the first wave, it arrives. That's not weakness, that's biology. What you choose is what happens next. The river and the dam. Think about a river in heavy rain. You have two options. You can build a dam, stop it completely, force it underground, pretend it isn't there. For a while, that works. The surface looks calm, but underground, the pressure keeps building, and eventually, the dam breaks. And when it does, it's not a river anymore. It's a flood. Or you build channels. You don't stop the water. You give it somewhere useful to go. You work with it, not against it. The Stoics were engineers, not walls. They weren't trying to stop the river. They were trying to direct it. Marcus Aurelius felt rage. He wrote about it openly. Grief, frustration, exhaustion, it's all in Meditations. He wasn't performing peace. He was doing the daily work of redirecting what he felt into something he could use. That's the difference. And it changes everything about how you practice. Exercise 1. Let the first wave come. Stop fighting the reflex. When something hits you, anger, anxiety, jealousy, fear, don't immediately try to kill it. Let it arrive. Notice it. Give it 5 seconds of honest acknowledgement. I'm angry. I feel that. That's it. No judgment. No self-attack for feeling it. No, I shouldn't be feeling this. Just, here it is. This sounds passive. It's actually the opposite. Because the moment you acknowledge an emotion honestly, you stop being controlled by it. You're no longer inside the wave. You're standing next to it, watching it arrive. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most of the damage emotions do isn't from the emotion itself. It's from the story we build around it. When we refuse to look at it directly, look at it, name it. That's the first exercise. Exercise 2. Ask where it came from. Once you've let the wave arrive, get curious. Not defensive, not spiraling. Curious. Ask what's actually driving this. Because most emotions, especially the sharp ones, are pointing at something real underneath. Anger is usually a boundary that got crossed. Anxiety is usually uncertainty about something you care about. Grief is love with nowhere to go. The Stoics were obsessed with this. They called it examining the impression, looking behind the surface reaction to find the real thing underneath. Here's a simple version. When you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself 3 questions. What just happened? The actual facts, not the story I built around it. What did I want that I didn't get? Is what I'm feeling proportional to what actually occurred? That third question is where things get interesting. Because most of the time, not always, but most, the intensity of what you're feeling is about more than this moment. It's accumulated, old, connected to something that has nothing to do with the person in front of you right now. Seeing that doesn't erase the feeling, but it takes away its teeth. Exercise 3. Separate the emotion from the action. This is the core skill, the one the Stoics kept coming back to. You can feel something fully and still choose what you do with it. Feeling angry is not the same as acting angry. Feeling scared is not the same as letting fear make your decisions. The emotion is information. The action is your choice. Epictetus said it plainly. Men are disturbed, not by the things that happen, but by their opinions about things. Which means your feeling about an event is not the event. It's your interpretation, and interpretations can be examined, revised, updated. In practice, this looks like a pause, not suppression. A pause. You feel the anger, you acknowledge it, and then you ask, what would I do here if I weren't angry? What does this situation actually call for? Then you do that. Not because you don't feel the anger, but because we're not letting the anger write the script. That gap between feeling and action is where your character lives. That's the space Frankl wrote about. That's what the Stoics were building. Exercise by exercise, every single day. Exercise 4. Use the emotion as fuel. Here's where Stoicism gets underrated. People think the Stoics were trying to reach some flat, neutral, emotional state. Nothing too high, nothing too low. Just gray, controlled, muted. That's wrong. Marcus Aurelius didn't run an empire on emotional numbness. Epictetus didn't build one of the most influential philosophical schools in history by feeling nothing. These were men who burned, who cared deeply, who were moved by the world. They just didn't let the emotion drive. When you feel frustration at injustice, that's fuel. When you feel grief over something lost, that's proof of how much it mattered. And it can become motivation to honor what you've lost by how you live. When you feel fear, that's information about where your real stakes are. The exercise is this. When a strong emotion arrives, after you've named it and examined it, ask one more question. What is this feeling trying to protect or create? Anger protects a boundary. Fear protects something you value. Grief honors something that mattered. Find the thing underneath, and you've found something you can actually work with. You stop being a prisoner of the emotion. You start being its interpreter, its director, and that's a completely different relationship with your own inner life. Exercise 5. The nightly emotional inventory. The Stoics were obsessive journalers, not because they liked writing, because they understood that unexamined emotions accumulate. Every night, before sleep, Seneca asked himself, what weakness did I conquer today? How am I better? What fault did I resist? He wasn't flagellating himself. He was auditing. To apply this specifically to emotion, tonight, before you close your eyes, ask, what did I feel today that I didn't look at? Was there a moment I suppressed instead of redirected? Was there a feeling I acted out instead of examining? You're looking for patterns, not perfection. Over time, you'll start to see there are specific triggers that consistently bypass your reasoning. Specific people, specific situations, specific tones of voice. Once you see them, and you can only see them by reviewing, you can prepare, you can build the channel before the rain comes. This is 5 minutes, that's the whole exercise. But those 5 minutes, done every night, compound over months into a level of self-knowledge that most people never reach. Exercise 6. Practice voluntary discomfort. This one surprises people. The Stoics deliberately put themselves in uncomfortable situations, not to suffer, to practice. Epictetus was born into slavery and chose to remain simple even after he was free. Marcus Aurelius slept on a soldier's cot when he could have slept in the finest room in Rome. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in the empire, would periodically eat and dress as a poor man for days at a time. Why? Because they understood something about emotions. They grow stronger when they're never tested. Fear grows in the dark. Comfort builds fragility when you voluntarily face small discomforts. Cold water, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a period of silence when you'd rather reach for your phone. You are training your emotional system. You're proving to yourself over and over that you can feel something hard and keep moving. The discomfort isn't the point. The proof is the point. And when you've proven it 100 times in small moments, the big moments lose some of their power. Not all of it, but enough. Enough that you can feel the wave, find your footing, and choose what comes next. Exercise 7. Return to the present moment. Here's the one that ties everything together. Most emotional suffering, not the initial hit, but the prolonged suffering, happens in time that isn't now. Regret lives in the past. Anxiety lives in the future. What's actually happening in this exact moment is usually manageable. Often, it's even fine. Marcus Aurelius came back to this constantly. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not as avoidance, as precision." He was cutting off the suffering that was happening in his mind about things that weren't happening in his life. When you feel overwhelmed by emotion, ask, is this happening right now, in this moment? Or am I living in a story I'm telling myself about what happened or what might happen? Most of the time, when you're honest, it's the story. The emotion about the story is real, the feeling is real, but the event driving it either already happened and is over, or hasn't happened yet and may never happen. When you pull yourself back into what is actually in front of you right now, the room you're in, the breath you're taking, the choice available to you in this single moment, the noise drops significantly. Not gone, but manageable. That's the goal. Not silence, not numbness, manageable. Clear. Yours. The Stoics weren't asking you to feel less. They were asking you to feel accurately, to let the first wave come without drowning in it, to examine what's underneath without running from it, to separate what you feel from what you do with it, to use emotion as information rather than instruction, to audit yourself at the end of the day without judgment, to build resilience through small, deliberate challenges, and to come back always to what's actually real right now. That's 7 exercises, not concepts, not quotes. Things you can do today, tonight, tomorrow morning. Pick one, try it once, see what shifts. And if you've been watching since chapter 1, you already know the pattern. Small, consistent practice. No dramatic transformations, just the daily work of becoming someone whose inner life belongs to them. Next week, we go into something the Stoics called memento mori, the practice of thinking about death, not as something dark, but as the sharpest tool they had for cutting through everything that doesn't matter. It sounds uncomfortable. That's the point, and it might be the most useful thing we cover. I'll see you there.